Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
Congressman Jamaal Bowman.
Hey.
Welcome.
What's up, man? What's up?
How you
doing?
feeling?
Great. 17 days away from early voting, man. Really excited about my campaign. Really excited to continue to build this grassroots movement we've been building for the last 4 years. I'm hyped, man. I'm ready to go.
You in the fight of your life right now, man. I saw New York Magazine say that you are the most endangered Democrat in America.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, you can't speak up for black people. You know, you can't speak up for Gaza. You know what I mean? As soon as you start speaking up for black and brown people, they're going to attack you. That's how white supremacy works. And so, you know, I had the audacity to call for a permanent ceasefire very early on because we heard what they were saying. They talking about Amalek and cutting off food and water and using white phosphorus and, you know, using genocidal language. And so we call for a ceasefire early. And when you do that, AIPAC is going to attack you. They don't want any kind of criticism of Israel. And so we did that, and they've been coming after us. They're going to spend more money in this race than they have ever spent in history to get the first black man, first person of color in U.S. history out of this seat.
Oh, was it $2 million, right?
No, $2 million a week.
$2 million a week?
Yeah, by the time we get to the end, it's going to be like 20-something million. So even back in October, they were running negative ads against me, trying to bully me into, you know, taking the position they wanted me to take. And since over the last 3 weeks, they've been spending like $2 million a week. And election day is June 25th. So they're going to spend $2 million a week up until election day. It'll be the most expensive primary in U.S. history. Wow. So, you know.
Is the seat worth that much?
Shit, to them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To them, it's worth that much because think about it. Before I was in office, before I was in this seat, it was Elliot Engel, Congressman Elliot Engel, who was the #1 pro-Israel hawk, you know, war hawk, chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee. He was there for 30 years, and right next to him was Nita Lowey, who never had any criticism about Israel. Now you got me coming in, and I'm not against any state or whatever, but it's about human rights. It's about justice. Like if you're not taking care of the people next to you and we're not doing the right work for a Palestinian state and a free Palestine, I'm going to call that out. And so to them, they don't want any criticism. They don't want anyone calling it out. And so I've been calling it out from the beginning. But at the same time, you know, our foreign policy and what we're trying to stop there connects to what's happening here. This is a group, AIPAC, they're a racist organization, first and foremost. 85% of their money go towards targeting black and brown people, right? That's number one. Number two,
Is that true?
100%.
Okay.
And my opponent, who's working with them, who's endorsed by them, has a record that doesn't reflect doing anything for black and brown people or very little over the course of his career. And so they don't care about black and brown people in my district. They don't care about people of Gaza. They just care about their own power. And so that's why they're coming for it. But we ain't going to let them buy this seat from the people. We decide. The people decide. The black and brown people, progressive people, diverse coalition that we have decide on who's going to win this election on the 25th.
Now, George Latimer, that's who you're
Yes.
right? From what I read, him and AIPAC have said some pretty racist comments toward you.
Yeah.
They said they put out a mailer. I haven't seen it where your skin was darkened.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yo, that's standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
And that ain't even the worst of it.
And they said they wish you had a stroke.
Yo, son. He posted something on his Facebook page. People started commenting on this post saying they hope I have a stroke and referring to me as a thug. He did not even comment. He didn't denounce it. He didn't condemn it. He didn't even take it down until the Working Families Party wrote him a letter, wrote a public letter that put pressure on him, and then he took it down. He said at a Black History event in New Rochelle to black people that I take money from Hamas. He said this publicly. And our lawyers had to send him a cease and desist letter. Don't talk about me like that, or else we're going to go after you. And then he tried to deny and say, no, I say take money from supporters of Hamas, which is also fucked up to say too, right? But so you're saying I take money from a terrorist organization, you're endorsed by a racist organization. Most of their money come from racist MAGA right-wing Republicans. They're funded by MAGA Republicans. Same Republicans taking our voting rights, same people going after our affirmative action, women's right to choose, same people who supported the insurrectionists. This the people my so-called opponent, Democrat opponent, is partnering with to, again, go after the first black man in this seat.
And what's the demographics in your district?
It's majority minority, majority black and Latino, a very large pro-Israel component, right?
Very large Jewish
Well, not just Jewish. I don't want to talk about them as a monolith. They're different, right? Because there's Jews for Jamaal. Shout out to Jews for Jamaal out there.
Okay.
You know, they support me tremendously. Jewish Voices for Peace, if not now. These are great organizations working on good foreign policy. But there is a pro-Israel segment of the district that's very active, very outraged about my position, and they're going to go out and vote. Like, this is the ultimate get your ass out and vote race. Like, the black and brown people say, oh, I don't vote, this, that, whatever. This is the ultimate. This is the ultimate moment to show our power. There are 40,000 black and Latino men in the district who have never voted before. Like, they don't even understand. They could have decided governor. They could have decided county executive. They could have decided local mayor, and they can now decide a congressman. They've never voted before.
Why do you think they're not energized? Like, why do you feel
Well,
like they
you
don't?
know why. I mean, we know why, right? It's a political system has never really done anything for black people on a big level, right? Like, so we are co-sponsor of a resolution calling for 16 trillion, I think 12 trillion in reparations for black people. My opponent is against that. My opponent is like, it's not realistic. We don't need to be talking about reparations for black people at this time. So if you're black in America, for example, and the federal government has never taken up the issue of reparations very seriously, why are you going to be engaged in what's happening in the political process? The difference now is you got someone like me there, first black man, raised in the culture, single mom, working class, educator, finally in Congress, speaking the way I speak and governing with the people the way I do. And so usually, like in 2020, we tripled voter turnout from 2018. Why? Because they had a candidate they could believe in, they could connect with, so they came out. We need those numbers and then some in this race, because if we come out to vote in big numbers, my opponent doesn't have a pathway to victory. It doesn't matter what money they spend. So this is the ultimate show our power as real progressives, people under 50, people of color. Come out. Early voting is June 15th is the first day. Come out in big numbers and just show our strength. If we do that, we change the trajectory of politics in the district, in the county, in the state, and in the country.
What's the biggest thing that you heard about yourself, or the biggest lies that they've been trying to tell, so that, you know, up here you can tell people what's true or what's not true? Because, I mean, there's so much online that you could just tell is just lies. So what's the biggest things that you heard about yourself that you know is not true?
They're trying to paint this picture out there that, you know, because I voted against a particular bill, I'm against President Biden's agenda, right? The fact of the matter is I me personally co-wrote one of President Biden's biggest bills, the CHIPS and Science Act, which is going to bring back semiconductor manufacturing to our country and particularly help us build wealth in black and brown communities. I wrote that provision into that bill. We pressured Biden to ban ghost guns across the country, and he took action to ban ghost guns, which helped reduce gun violence across the country. I worked with Elizabeth Warren to engage Biden so that he could do something to stop housing costs, rental costs from going up, because the rent is too damn high. Anyone who receives federal money, we should be able to regulate rent. So those are just three things. There were many more. At the same time, if the president ain't doing right by black and brown people in our communities or in Gaza, I'm going to say something about that. Like, I'm not going to just be quiet on that. And that's good governance, right? It's good to have that dialogue, have that debate, hold me accountable. Shit. We got to hold each other accountable in order to grow. So they're taking one vote, like one of the ads I saw. I've been in there 3 years now, voted 1,000 times. They taking one vote and trying to paint me as the devil because I voted a particular way one time. The other thing they're trying to say is they're using language like, oh, we don't like his style. Oh, he's too bombastic, right? This is like racially coded dog whistle language. Because, you know, as black people, we're not allowed to say nothing. You know what I mean? Before Charlamagne, there's nobody on radio, you know what I'm saying, talking like he talking how y'all talk. So they're trying to disempower one of my greatest strengths, which is my passion for people and humanity and love and the work that we do. So that's another thing they're trying to do. And because they have so much money, they can just put it on loops over and over and over again and begin to brainwash people. I'm glad you said what you said. Our people, they see it right away. Like, that's some bullshit. Like, as soon as they see it, they're like, first of all, I know him. I know the work he does. I know what he's about. I heard him talk a million times. What you're saying is not accurately representing his right. We brought over $1 billion to the district, and that's conservative. $40 million for gun violence, $88 million for flood mitigation, investments in climate justice, education, mental health. Again, targeting particularly the areas that have been ignored. Mount Vernon, Yonkers, the Bronx, New Rochelle, black and brown areas, like always. We targeting them because y'all ain't been doing it. He's been in office 35 years. I've done more in 3 years for black and brown people than he's done in 35 years. So like, let's debate that instead of trying to talk about some wild shit that ain't even accurate.
How is all this affecting you mentally though? And
Good question, man. Listen, I try to go to the gym a lot. You know, weightlifting really helps. I got, my wife and my kids. So after a long day, I go home, man. Me and my wife turn on the TV, watch something mindless. I lay on her and we just, we chill. So, you know how it works. Eat right, exercise. You try to do those things. I ain't had a drink in 2024. So that's helpful as well. And pray, man. Like pray and meditate, yo. That's and have people pray for me. Like when I go to church, the church prays for me, the mosque prays for me. That's all very helpful because some of the forces against me right now and against us, man, and historically are evil forces, man. Like they're not here to help us, man. People in politics. First of all, white supremacy is all about power. This is white supremacy. So it's all about power. It's all about control. Whether it's foreign policy or domestic policy. And so Congress is under control of big money in politics. Big money in politics is driven by white supremacy. AIPAC is a white supremacist organization. And their big money decides, listen, in Congress, let me tell you what moves quickly. Anything related to police, helping police, or anything related to Israel. Those two things move quickly. We write a bill today, we vote on that shit tomorrow. But what about raising the federal minimum wage or universal child care or affordable housing or workforce development programs? One of the criticisms of Biden is we passed all these historic bills the first 2 years I was in Congress, but then on the ground, people are still struggling to find good jobs and make enough money and afford their housing, afford their child care. And I always remind people, it's not only Biden's fault. We got to vote down ballot. Yeah. Who are we sending to the U.S. Senate? Who are we sending to Congress? What about the state? We send the state and the county billions of dollars. The state and the county decide how they're going to use that money. So if we're not active politically locally, they're not going to listen to us. They're just going to spend the money how they want to spend it. And so that's why we need everybody involved, not just for me and my race. Like, I'm good. Like, God forbid I lost. I got some talent. I get a job. I'll be all right. It's not about me. It's about what we all represent. Like, we represent justice. We represent humanity. We represent the American dream for real, opportunity. And that's why everybody got to be involved.
I wanted to ask you, because you made me think of something. I want you to expound on that more. How does you keeping your position benefit the people in our community?
So it's important what we speak about and how we speak about it is very important, right? The person who was in the seat before me probably never spoke about universal child care as being a North Star where we got to go as a country, right? Never spoke about fully funding our public schools and the idea that in my district, if you live in Scarsdale, right, we're spending $10,000-$20,000 more per kid than if you live in the Bronx, right? Like that issue. The issue, not just the issue of reducing gun violence, but like being on the ground with the family when they lose a son and grieving with that family at a vigil, but then saying, we got to fucking do something about this because it's not just about thoughts and prayers. Okay, we got to write to Biden telling Biden to take action on gun violence. And he did that, right? Young girl stabbed to death in Mount Vernon, right? Again, not just being with the family and showing up and talking about what's going on, having, particularly me, like I'm an educator. I have a doctorate in education. My focus has been on trauma. So I know the impact of individual and collective trauma on communities, and I use that to drive policy. So when the young girl stabbed to death, we not just thoughts and prayers. It's like, okay, what's the policy solution here? How do we bring in money to target at-risk girls so they have a place to go and something to do that's not just about, the normal things we have girls do, cutie and cheerleading and all that. There's other things. So it's about that kind of thing. So it's about lived experiences. My lived experiences, my professional experiences as an educator gives me a perspective that guides how I govern with the people. And so that's critical versus, no offense, 70-year-old white man, career, corrupt, corporate, pay-to-play politician that's partnering with big money, racist MAGA Republicans, and election deniers while saying crazy shit like I take money from Hamas and allowing people to say I have a stroke and call me a thug. Do you want that kind of person in the seat? That kind of person who's literally supporting a genocide in Gaza right now. So while I call for a ceasefire early, he's never done that. While I called it a genocide early, he's never done that. This individual is working with AIPAC to support a genocide in Gaza, babies being burnt alive in Rafah just a couple days ago. He supports that. Doesn't want to criticize Netanyahu. He supports that. So you want somebody like that in office, or someone like me who spent my entire life dedicated to people least lost and left behind, most neglected, most not marginalized? I was in education for 20 years. When I saw shit wasn't working in education, I opened my own school and ran that school as a middle school principal for 10 and a half years. I saw shit wasn't working for my kids and community. I said, fuck it, I'm running for Congress. See what happened? Ran for Congress, won. And now we in Congress building power. So we building power. They scared to death of that shit. And so this is why we gotta come out in droves for this race and beyond, because we gotta build power. All that I don't vote shit, you giving your power to white supremacy.
Yeah. But you said the guy George Latimer is supporting genocide in Gaza.
Yes.
Right? So why support him? People say the same thing about President Biden.
Yeah.
So how do you like? Because that's when it gets. That's when it feels like everybody's talking out both sides of their mouth.
That's the toughest question I get, right? And that's why we have been.
You can't say don't support this guy because he supports what's going on, the genocide in Gaza, but then support President Biden.
Yeah, so that's the number one thing we've been consistently critical of the president on, is his response to Gaza and his response to Netanyahu, and not doing more to hold Netanyahu accountable. The U.S. government should not be sending another weapon to Israel right now. We should not be sending another dime to Israel right now, period. And the president said his red line was Rafah. That red line was crossed. We need to stop sending weapons, period. So I get it. I get how people feel. Only thing I would say to that, and I hate the lesser two evil shit. I hate it. I hate it. However, I was sworn into Congress January 3rd, 2021. 3 days later, they attacked the fucking U.S. Capitol. 5 people were killed that day. 5 people died since then. And if they would have got their way, multiple members of Congress would have been killed. Trump led an insurrection. And he's on some deport these Latinos. We're going to do something with the radical left, which is me. Muslim bans, dictator for a day. Y'all heard of Project 25? They're talking about using military to quell protests. That's some whole other shit that I don't even imagine what that could possibly be. But because historically we haven't had political power, we're continually left with choices that some people feel aren't great for either side. I could tell you, I've been a member of Congress while President Biden has been president. And when we had control of the House, we did way more governing. We did way more. We passed way more laws, did way more good things. His Achilles heels right now is Gaza. And he needs to respond differently to that.
What did you think about Nikki Haley signing the bombs and all that?
I mean, she's a I was gonna say something crazy. She's a white supremacist, man. So that's not surprising to me. Again, there's people like her in Congress who believe in peace through strength, and peace through strength means peace for white people, and we'll kill and bomb and destroy any other country, particularly black and brown, if we want to. That's what peace through strength mean. So signing the bomb is an ode to the military-industrial complex, and we're strong and we're mighty and no one can defeat us. It's like many of my colleagues don't understand diplomacy, don't understand peace, don't understand negotiation. When you consider the communities we all came from, we did that shit every day, block to block, to make sure shit didn't blow up to something crazy and no one got killed, and people still get killed, but we try to reduce that as much as possible. We do that every day, project to project. But fucking in Washington, it's like it's this. Dr. King said the three ills we got to continue to fight going forward: racism, capitalism, and militarism. And those are 3 same things we're fighting right now. We got to continue to fight those things.
What do you think about black and brown people? A lot of people saying, what's going on in Gaza and Israel ain't our fight. It ain't our problem. We have so many other problems, but nobody comes to our defense. We have so many issues that nobody helps us on our issues. So why should we dive into what's happening over there? Because
So it's both, right? It's white supremacy. So what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in the Congo, what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in the Caribbean, it's all part of white supremacy. It's about genocide of the natives, enslavement of the Africans, colonization of the continent, destruction of Latino countries to force mass migration, climate justice. It's all under the umbrella of white supremacy. So we should all be serious about defeating white supremacy. But also, we send $3.8 billion to Israel every year. They're already a wealthy country and already a powerful country. Some have written that they don't even need our $3.8 billion. That $3.8 billion could be coming to Mount Vernon, Yonkers, the Bronx, New Rochelle, all the communities that have been redlined and neglected. What we spend on the military can be coming here. Not all of it, because we got to defend ourselves, but more of it, right? So that's why it matters. It matters. Like, I don't want my taxpayer money going to commit genocide. I want my taxpayer money coming here to help me have childcare, to help me pay for my housing, to help me, develop myself in terms of workforce, to help me pay for education, transportation, quality of life. We have the biggest wealth inequality in this country since the Gilded Age, right now. And in my district, when you look at every outcome, health outcomes, education outcomes, economic outcomes, wealth, Black and Latino people are at the bottom. Blacks way bottom. And so that money that we spend on genocide can come here to help us.
As a congressman, what do you think the appropriate response to October 7th would have been? Because also as a congressman, war is a part of it.
Yeah.
Right? So what would the appropriate response have been?
Yeah, go after Hamas, not all the civilians. You know what I'm saying? So when we went into Iraq, we went to Afghanistan, first we went in trying to blow everybody up. And then we were much more surgical, much more strategic, and we got bin Laden and we got Saddam Hussein.
Were they more surgical, though? Because even when they had those conversations about what they call them, insurgents.
Yeah.
Insurgents is usually the women and the children. Like, they just say,
Correct, right. But that's what I'm saying. Initially, we were just going in and killing everybody. That's what Israel's doing right now in Gaza, killing everybody. And they use language like this. The president said there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. Netanyahu said, remember Amalek, which is a biblical reference to a genocidal attack, right? They cut off food, water, use white phosphorus, et cetera, et cetera. Right now is a famine setting in because they're not letting the food get in, right? So this right here, these are war crimes. And what could have been done is a surgical response to get Hamas. But here's the bigger picture here. Hamas is not a people. It's an idea. It's an idea that festers and nurtures in the minds of people who are historically oppressed. And so we have to deal with the oppression, not just the people who have been nurtured as a result of the oppression. So Israel's been referred to as an apartheid state. Not Jamaal Bowman's words, the UN, Human Rights Watch, other organizations, apartheid state, right? So that means these people are growing up in apartheid, right? There's a military occupation for 75 years in the West Bank. That is against international law. There's settlement expansion into the West Bank of what's supposed to be a Palestinian state, 700,000 people. That is against international law. There's a consistent detaining of women and children without due process in the West Bank. These are war crimes. And so you got people growing up in that. So it's not to justify anything. We condemned October 7th absolutely outright because killing civilians is wrong. That's a war crime, absolutely. But you can't condemn October 7th and then not condemn what's happened since then or what happened before that. And so surgical approach in this moment is better, but what's actually better is peace. We've been talking about two-state solution. We're the Palestinian state. I went there. Like, I went to Israel. I went to the West Bank. I've been to Hebron and Ramallah, and the place that's supposed to be a Palestinian state, it has 700,000 illegal settlers from Israel on that land. So how are we going to have a state? We lying. Like, stop lying to the people and to ourselves. You want to stop Hamas and stop extremism? Let's have diplomacy and equity and opportunity and stop trying to maintain this white supremacist caste system.
What I've heard a lot of pro-Israel people saying is that Hamas doesn't want peace. Like, Hamas's whole mission is to wipe Jewish people off the face of the earth.
And that's why we got to deal with Hamas. The other part of that is Netanyahu empowered Hamas over the course of years to destabilize the Palestinians. So that, because Netanyahu doesn't want a Palestinian state. Netanyahu wants the Palestinians to leave. And if they don't leave, he will kill them. That's what he wants, so that they can have all the land. That's what he wants. And so he's been empowering Hamas to undermine the PLO and the Palestinian Authority so that they don't rise up as quality leaders, because then it'll be pressure on him to have a Palestinian state. So Netanyahu is a fucking nightmare in this whole scenario. But the U.S. got to step in. We are the ones who support they're our allies. Okay, hold our allies accountable. We want to keep them safe. Let's have a Palestinian state. You can have a safe Israel and a safe Palestine. You could fight anti-Semitism and have a free Palestine, and that's what we should be focused on. It's like we don't have complex, nuanced thinking or even a heart as we deal with these issues. Lead with the heart first, and not with fucking missiles.
Why do some leftists say they don't feel like you're critical enough of Israel? Because clearly you are, and clearly AIPAC thinks otherwise too. So I
I don't know, man. I think there's purity tests out there. You know what I mean? Where like, if you don't say this word this way in this medium, then you're not critical. But like again, it's not about Israel, right? It's about humanity, right? It's about who are we as a human race, and who are we trying to be? You know what I'm saying? Are we trying to just be in a cycle of disagreement, conflict, violence, war, genocide, so that I can have power and you can't? Is that just, we're just going to be in that human cycle for the rest of human existence? Or are we going to like put the guns down, come together and figure out a way to share this planet abundantly together? I think we can do that. I think there's enough space for everyone to have land, a home, food, clothing, shelter, and realize their dreams. Right. But white supremacy stops that from happening. And that's why that, the movie Origin and the book Caste is so powerful, because it talks about that caste system. And it's not just here, it's all over the place. And it's like, fuck, man, like, can't we just figure out how to live here together without the bullshit?
Right. I got one more question about Israel before I ask you something else, because I really don't know. Why are both parties so beholden to Israel? Is it because of the money that comes from AIPAC? Like, why? What is it?
I think that's part of it. I think that's a major part of it. AIPAC writes resolutions and bills for us to vote on. And they also fund the re-election campaign of like the majority of members of Congress, Republican and Democrat.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. And if you do something against them, they will come after you very aggressive, like they're doing in my race. When we first got to Congress, one of the things we learned that what was happening is Israel wasn't sending vaccines to Palestinians, which is their responsibility as an occupying power. So we wrote a letter to the consulate, y'all got to send them vaccines. Like, what are we doing? Consulate, all kinds of people responded online crazy. Oh, he's talking about Israel. We met with the consulate, et cetera, et cetera. Good meeting. It was good. We co-sponsored a bill with one of my colleagues that only asked the question, what are you doing with our money? We want to make sure you're not using our money to detain women and children unjustly. We just co-sponsored the bill. It didn't have a vote. No one took a vote on it. It definitely wasn't going to pass. They sent 1,000 letters to my office. We couldn't even do our job for like a week or two because they constantly bombarded our office. They were protesting outside my Mount Vernon office with the Israeli flag. Like, and so my colleagues don't want to deal with that. Many of them, they're like, I'd rather just chill. Let me keep this cushiony seat. It's a very cushy job, man. You know what I'm saying? You don't make a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? When you got kids and family, but every night in D.C., there's some lobbyist group throwing a free party with free food and free drinks in a very nice hotel. And you in D.C. overlooking the Capitol, drinking wine. You're like, oh, shit, this is nice.
You got the cocaine, though.
I have no idea. That's why. Listen.
They found some in the White House. I know it's some at the party.
Allegedly. I don't know, man. Listen, let me tell you what I do when I'm there. I'll vote and I take my ass home. Because that shit is crazy.
How do you feel about the rematch between Biden and Trump? How do you think it's going?
I hope this is, again, I support President Biden, even though I'm totally against everything he's doing in Gaza. I think he's a better president. And as a Democrat, if we have the House and the Senate and he's president, we're going to do stuff.
We've heard that before.
We have done stuff, though. What are you talking about? We've done stuff.
We heard that
We
before.
saved the economy. Even when Trump was in office, we saved the economy.
We heard that last time, but then everything got put, the blame got put on Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Like the whole agenda. George Floyd Policing Act.
Again, it's a democracy, right? And so it's interesting because, I saw brother Rashad Bilal, a clip from him. Shout out to Rashad. EYL. He was talking about Biden and how people are not energized by Biden, and he's right about that. But somebody in the comments was like, "Yo, we got 30 U.S. Senate races. Look down ballot. Like, we gotta look down ballot."
But they don't ever tell us that, and I agree with you. But that when we put Biden in office, they were saying the same thing, right? Y'all know these senators better than us. Yeah. Y'all know who's not on the same page as y'all. So yes. why volunteer to lie that, we're all going to be in line, and then Kamala, Vice President's going to have the tiebreaker?
Again, I'm going to come back to your question. But again, it's American Rescue Plan, CHIPS and Science Act, bills we could point to that we passed that we wouldn't have passed if we didn't have all three, right? So real results there. But in terms of the 30 down ballots, you get the right senators in the Senate, now we could do more shit. Also, there's something called a filibuster. Please have someone, I think there's a book called Kill Switch, I'm forgetting the author, have him here to talk about the filibuster. Because right now what we have in the Senate, this is why we need democracy reform.
We should have been got rid of the filibuster.
Yeah, the democracy reform, because it's not like a simple majority in the Senate could pass a bill. You need 60-40. And so what we have is minority rule, where 50 senators from smaller states with less people have as much power than the 50 senators, right? So that's part of it. But in terms of the rematch, like, again, support Biden and hope he wins so we can govern together and do more stuff. But what they represent, both of them, I hope is the end of that kind of politics.
Man,
it's time to evolve into the democracy we can be for everyone, right? And we need new candidates, right? We need Ayanna Pressley. We need, Wes Moore. We need Gretchen Whitmore. We need
Governor Shapiro.
Yeah, we need new thinking people. Governor Shapiro, people with new ideas, new thoughts, engage the community differently. And that has to happen in 2028. I hate talking about that now. My hope is whoever wins this election, I hope it's not Trump, who tries to do some stay in office forever shit, and we could get him out.
Fox News gonna run with that.
Yeah.
You slipped up. Yeah, you slipped up.
I hope it's not Biden. They gonna run. They gonna run with that,
right? But because I don't know what he's gonna do, and I don't know how the military is gonna respond to his orders, and like real dangerous shit.
Right.
But whoever it is, if it's 4 years, like 2028, it got to be a whole new America.
Absolutely.
And a whole new foreign policy. So that's my hope.
A couple more questions. Really, just one. They had a story out there that you had a secret YouTube page.
Yeah.
And you were subscribed to channels that shared like anti-Semitic, flat earth, and Illuminati conspiracy videos. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't even remember that shit. Like whatever the YouTube page was or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you like things. You see a good video that's like, oh, that shit was, what he said was kind of interesting. Let me subscribe to that.
But why can't you watch that is what I'm saying. I'm not saying just because you watch it don't mean that you agree with it.
But it's about creating the perception that I'm a conspiracy theorist, radical black nut job. Yeah. That's what they're trying to do. This guy is not fit for office. He follows conspiracy theories and shit. That's what they're trying to do. We should be able to watch whatever we want.
Right.
I don't even know what page they're talking about. So when I saw that, I'm like, I don't even remember any of this.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene's a conspiracy theorist?
Man, but she's in what district in Georgia? She's in parts of Georgia, son.
Oh, got you.
Georgia, yo, like fucking Herschel Walker almost won that Senate seat.
Right.
Against Raphael Warnock, who's the most upstanding, one of the most upstanding people I've ever seen in my life, Warnock. Herschel Walker? Talking about, what's he talking about? Zombies and werewolves?
Yeah,
what's he
talking
talking
about?
Like that, yeah. He almost won. Like, Warnock only won by like percentage points. So Georgia and parts of Georgia is a different beast.
I feel like, with us, I feel like we always, and I'm talking about black and brown people, I feel like we lose so much, right? Because if you look at the presidency before, into my opinion, my knowledge of what I've seen, it was about what's going on with us, right? We could talk about healthcare. We could talk about, free education. We could talk about all these different things. But now it seems like the last 6 months, the only topics and the only talking points have been Gaza and Israel.
Geopolitical stuff.
And that it just seems so what happened from there? Because that's all they're talking about. I mean, when Biden, went to, Morehouse and he was talking, the biggest thing that people took out of it was him talking about the Gaza in Israel. When all these things happen, it just seems like we lose the focus of what, I'm not going to say important, because that is important, but what's also important.
That's why America First resonates with people.
Yeah, no, 100%. And who's that? Is that Trump's thing?
Trump's America First, I believe.
Yeah, that's Trump's thing, and that's Republicans' thing. I mean, they're completely full of shit, but yeah, I know why they say that. That's why in 2028, even now though, but that's why in 2028 we need at the top of the ticket. We need like people to constantly bring it back here. Like the fact that federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. When I first got to Congress, we tried to raise it to 15. We couldn't do that. It's crazy. The fact that we don't have a federal paid leave program, like, and other developed countries have paid leave. You have a child, you get to stay home with your child X amount of time. I'm really radical with this. I think you should have like 2 years paid leave, personally.
I know the fuck that's right.
Because rushing back to work with 3 months or a few weeks.
Yeah,
that's
6 to 8 weeks.
That's breaking a sacred bond between mother and child,
well,
right?
See, the only problem with that is if it's a small business, it hurts. If it's a major corporation,
correct,
it's a little different. But if it's a small business and you got 3 employees and that's one of your biggest employees that handles things, she can't be out for 2 years because you would have to pay 100%. Her and then bring in somebody else. And I don't think a lot of businesses can hold that.
This is where the federal government step in. We wouldn't be calling on the business to do it. The federal government needs to step in and do it. That's why we support universal health care, Medicare for all, because small businesses are really hurt by this. They got to provide health care to their employees. It really hurts their bottom line. If the federal government took that from them and had a single-payer system, they wouldn't have to do that. And so these are policies that, if implemented accordingly, we're going to have incredible economic results because now we got generations of children who are not growing up in trauma because their mama is home with them, nurturing them, or because we have universal child care to take care of them. But instead, what we have is a system that's everything based on free market capitalism, and so we don't have enough child care. So you got kids growing up in trauma, and those are the kids who end up in the school to prison pipeline. So if we did it right, not just with that policy but others, you would see economic growth tremendously. Right, you will see a decrease in jail and police costs because you won't need it as much, and you will see a decrease in healthcare costs because guess what? When your brain develops accordingly, because you're not dealing with trauma, you have better overall health outcomes. Again, this is research. Look up adverse childhood experiences and ACEs research projects done many years ago in the medical field, and so we need scholarship and humanity to drive our politics. Right now, we have big money and war and fucking racism driving our politics.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you brought up the minimum wage, too. I was in Florida Saturday for one of my book signings. A sister named Kim, she had a broke leg, and she was like, this is why Joe Biden is going to have to earn my vote because he didn't fight hard enough to get federal minimum wage increased, and he didn't fight hard enough to pass voting rights.
Yeah.
So when you actually talk to people, when you actually travel the country and talk to people, you get to really see what's on people's minds.
This is why he and his people got to go talk to people.
That's right.
Right? Because, again, like I could say, right, because I know a little bit more, not more, but different perspective because I'm in Congress, I would say the Joe Manchin thing and also the Supreme Court shit, right? Like, and what they've done with voter rights and other bills. But, again, like, I don't want to hear I ain't voting shit, the system don't work for me. The system don't work for us historically because of racism and all the shit. And that's kept us away. So we haven't been able to build power. We have to build power right now going forward so that we don't have this dilemma where we're picking two candidates where most people don't like either one of them. We have to build the power in our communities and in our political system so that we are deciding who the next president is, next governor, next county executive, next mayors, but also the down ballot and in between people. Go back to the stat I gave before. 40,000 Black and Latino men in the district have never voted. They could have decided so in the Westchester County, when you decide who the county executive is, that person has a $2.3 billion budget. That person is going to make decisions about that budget. If you are voting engaged in the process, you could then be like, yo, you better put money over here or we voting your ass out of office. When you go to walk through parts of Yonkers, you think you walked through something 100 years ago. Like, go to Yonkers YMCA, YWCA, Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club. It's a travesty that these organizations look like they haven't had any investment in 100 years. And if I go to, again, I love all parts of my district, Ryan, Scarsdale, but their YMCA after Hurricane Ida was built again in like a month, 2 months, because they got the resources to do it, and it's state of the art. Why we got to keep not having state of the art shit?
Real.
Yeah.
I want state of the art shit for all people, but particularly historically marginalized people in my district, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, the Bronx, etc., but all over the country.
Right. Where did they go to support you, brother?
Thank you. BowmanForCongress.com. We need your help. It's 17 days away from early voting. AIPAC is spending more money in this race than they have ever spent in history. I hold that as a fucking badge of honor because it means I'm fighting for the right thing, fighting for freedom, justice, equality, humanity for all people. So you can help us out. BowmanForCongress.com. Click the donate button, donate a couple bucks, whatever you could do, $10, $20, $30, whatever you could do. But also volunteer button because we need people on the doors. So volunteer. We got phone banks, door knocking every single day for the next 27 days, but definitely before early voting June 15th.
All right. Nice. Well, we appreciate you for joining us.
Thank you, man.
Before you walked in, Jess and I were talking about, Trump pulling up on your district.
Yes.
And what did you think about that, especially with Sleepy Hollow and
Jess
Chef
is like,
G?
oh my God, he's about to talk for another 10 minutes.
No,
Look at him.
No,
Look at him.
I'm gonna be quick. I'm gonna be quick.
He pulled up at your district. What did you think about it?
So it wasn't my district.
Okay.
It was the South Bronx.
Oh, South Bronx.
So
Okay.
it wasn't my district. I mean, Trump is a fucking clown. Like his whole shit, he's a caricature, and that's how he acts, and that's how he behaves. So everything with him is a show. It's the theater. It's the bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I ain't really, my sister, shout out to AOC, she went out there and did a counter protest, and I know other local elected officials did counter protest. But he said 20,000. There was like 3,500 there. Like it wasn't really 20,000. He's a clown. I hope he goes away. Literally, gets held accountable for what he's done. But I just can't wait to move forward from him and MAGA and raise the consciousness of the people, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it's Congressman Jamaal Bowman. We appreciate you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir.
It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.